Have you ever woken up one morning and realized that something inside you has quietly faded like a light that once burned bright but now only flickers? I see that moment on men's faces every week. They walk into my office looking strong on the outside, yet their eyes tell a different story. It's the look of quiet defeat, the fear that age has stolen something essential, something they can't quite name, but feel deeply every single day. One of my patients, a 73-year-old retired engineer, once sat across from me and whispered, "Doctor, I feel like I'm disappearing. My energy's gone, my mornings are empty, and I can't remember the last time I felt truly alive." His words stayed with me because I've heard them hundreds of times before. And every time I tell my patients the same thing, this is not just age. It's a signal, your body's way of crying out that certain systems are running on empty. That moment of fear, the fear of losing manhood drive or vitality, isn't the end. It's the body asking for help, not surrender. I've seen men who thought their best days were behind them regain strength, clarity, and even that spark they thought was gone forever. And it didn't happen with prescriptions or complicated procedures. It started with something deceptively simple, a tiny change in their morning routine, a 30-second ritual that refueled their cells from the inside out. Because when you understand the real reason this happens, the story changes from decline to recovery. What if the problem isn't that your body is broken, but that it's been running without the nutrients it needs to repair itself? Tonight, I'm going to show you exactly how to fix that. Most men think the first sign of aging is wrinkles or gray hair, but after 2 decades in urology, I can tell you the real first sign appears in the quiet hours of the morning when your body should be giving you its strongest signal of life and suddenly doesn't. I've seen it hundreds of times. A patient tells me, "Doctor, everything looks fine on my blood tests, but I just feel drained." What he doesn't realize is that the body often shows the truth long before the numbers do. That lost morning response is not about passion. It's a cardiovascular distress signal. During deep restorative sleep, your nervous system shifts gears. Stress hormones fall, blood vessels widen, and oxygen surges through every tiny capillary. It's like an overnight recharge for the entire vascular network. When that natural rhythm stops showing up, it means circulation has started to falter. And when circulation falters, energy, focus, and confidence all begin to collapse one layer at a time. Think of your arteries like flexible garden hoses. When they're young and elastic, water flows freely. But years of inflammation, sugar spikes, and stress harden those walls until the pressure builds and the flow weakens. That's exactly what's happening inside the male body. A silent tightening that steals vitality long before it causes a heart attack. Here's the part most men never hear from their doctors. This change isn't inevitable. It's reversible. Clinical studies from Harvard and the University of Exeter show that improving vascular elasticity can restore nocturnal blood flow and energy levels within weeks, even in men over 60. The key isn't a pill, it's rebuilding the body's natural repair systems from the inside out. Because when you lose that morning signal, your body isn't giving up, it's asking for help. And the first step to answering that call starts with a single overlooked element that acts like armor for your blood vessels. But what if the cure for that fading signal has been sitting in your kitchen cabinet all along? Let's talk about the one vitamin that can reignite that internal spark and why most men are dangerously low on it. If I could put one vitamin in every man's morning glass of water, it would be vitamin C. Not because it's trendy, not because it fights colds, but because it quietly protects the very foundation of your vitality, your blood vessels. When I first explain this to my patients, they usually raise an eyebrow. Vitamin C, that's for kids, isn't it? But what most men don't realize is that vitamin C isn't just a supplement, it's the body's most loyal repair crew. It hunts down the microscopic damage that stress, sugar, and aging cause inside your arteries every single day. Imagine millions of tiny sparks flying around your bloodstream. Those are free radicals. Left unchecked, they burn, corrode, and stiffen the delicate walls of your arteries. Vitamin C is the extinguisher that puts out those invisible fires before they destroy circulation. And here's where science meets simplicity. Research from Johns Hopkins found that consistent vitamin C intake can reduce arterial stiffness by up to 11%. That's like turning back your cardiovascular clock by nearly a decade. The reason is collagen. Collagen is what gives your arteries flexibility, the ability to expand, to breathe, to carry blood efficiently. Without enough vitamin C, that structure weakens like a garden hose left out in the sun, brittle, cracked, and unable to handle pressure. What's more, vitamin C doesn't stay stored in your body. It's water soluble. That means every 24 hours, your internal shield fades unless you replenish it. This is why adding it to your morning water is such a powerful ritual. It's a small, consistent act that rebuilds the foundation of your circulation day by day. I remember one of my patients, Robert, a 68-year-old former firefighter. He started the simple habit, a few drops of liquid vitamin C each morning. And within weeks, his blood pressure stabilized. His complexion brightened, and he told me, "Doctor, I feel lighter inside." That's not coincidence, that's biology working again. Your body doesn't need miracles, it needs maintenance. And vitamin C is the start of that maintenance plan. But here's what surprises most men: repairing the vessel walls is only the first layer. The next key nutrient doesn't just protect, it reignites, it switches back on the internal engine that powers testosterone, mood, and drive. And that's where we turn next. If vitamin C is the armor, then vitamin D is the ignition key, the silent hormone that wakes up every system connected to your energy, mood, and masculinity. Most people still call it a vitamin, but in truth, it behaves like a hormone. It regulates more than 1,000 genetic processes, including the production of testosterone. And yet, according to the CDC, nearly 40% of American adults are deficient, especially men who spend most of their days indoors or live in northern states. I can't count how many times I've reviewed a patient's labs and found his vitamin D levels sitting dangerously low, usually under 25 ng/ml. These are the same men who tell me they've lost motivation, strength, and even their edge at work or in relationships. They think it's stress. Often it's chemistry. Low vitamin D throws the entire hormonal network off balance. It's like the main breaker switch in your house, quietly flipping off lights. A dim, power fades, everything slows down. When we correct that deficiency, the results are often dramatic. One study from the University of Graz in Austria found that men with optimal vitamin D levels had 25% higher testosterone than those who were deficient. That's not placebo, that's physiology. Vitamin D tells the brain to send a clear signal to the testes, produce more of the hormone that drives energy, mood, and vitality. What's fascinating is how simple the fix is. Sunlight helps, yes, about 20 minutes a day on bare skin, but for men over 50, the skin's ability to synthesize vitamin D drops sharply. That's why I often recommend liquid D3 drops in the morning, just a few drops into the same glass of water with vitamin C. It takes less than 30 seconds, yet it can restore a system that's been sleeping for years. I remember Mark, a 61-year-old accountant who came in complaining of brain fog and exhaustion. Within 8 weeks of optimizing his vitamin D levels, his mood lifted, his focus sharpened, and he said, "Doctor, I finally feel like myself again." That's the power of giving the body what it was designed to have all along. Rebuilding hormones and restoring energy is life-changing, but we're not done yet. Because while vitamin D turns the power back on something else, determines whether that energy can actually flow, and if that flow is blocked, even the strongest engine can't perform. That's where one of the most overlooked heroes comes in, a vitamin that acts like a traffic cop inside your arteries. If vitamin D lights up the system, vitamin K2 makes sure the power travels where it's supposed to go. I often call it the traffic controller of your bloodstream because its main job is to direct calcium, the mineral of life, to the right places. And more importantly, keep it out of the wrong ones. See, calcium is essential. You need it for strong bones, teeth, muscle contraction, even your heartbeat. But as men age, something alarming begins to happen, that calcium starts drifting. Without enough vitamin K2, your body can't tell calcium, hey, stay in the bones. Instead, it gets lost and hardens in your arteries, a process we call calcification. And once those arteries begin to stiffen, blood can't flow smoothly. The result, poor circulation, higher blood pressure, and yes, weaker performance where it matters most. What shocks most of my patients is that this process starts silently, often decades before any symptoms appear. You won't feel it, you won't see it, but slowly, the flexible pipes that once carried blood freely begin to turn rigid like old copper lines filling with scale. One day, you notice your hands and feet are colder, your recovery is slower, your energy flatter. It's all connected. That's why vitamin K2 is such a game changer. It activates a special protein matrix, GLA protein, whose job is to lock calcium safely into your bones while keeping your arteries clear. In other words, it prevents your circulatory system from turning into stone. Studies from Rotterdam and Oslo have shown that men with higher K2 intake have up to 50% lower risk of arterial calcification and cardiovascular events. That's not coincidence. That's biology doing its cleanup work. The best form is MK7, the most bioavailable version often found in fermented foods like natto, though I'll be honest, most Americans don't eat enough of it. That's why a simple few drops of liquid K2 taken alongside vitamin D in your morning water can create a perfect synergy. Vitamin D brings calcium into the body, and vitamin K2 tells it exactly where to go. Together, they act like an engineer and a navigator, precision balance and flow restored. And here's the beauty. When blood flows freely, everything improves: your brain, your heart, your energy, even your confidence. I've seen men who were one step away from hypertension find themselves feeling lighter and more focused after just a month of consistent K2 and D3. Repairing your circulation is the foundation, but even the best-built engine still needs protection from daily wear and tear. Because the world we live in today bombards your cells with constant stress toxins, bad oils, processed foods, radiation from screens, and your body needs one last shield to withstand it. That's where vitamin E steps in. If vitamin C repairs, vitamin D energizes, and vitamin K2 directs, then vitamin E is your armor, the invisible shield that protects every single cell from the relentless attack of modern life. I often describe it to my patients as the body's firewall. It doesn't just defend, it preserves, it keeps every spark of energy you create from being stolen by oxidative stress. You see, every cell in your body is wrapped in a delicate fatty membrane. Think of it like the thin plastic coating around an electrical wire. That membrane controls what enters and what leaves the cell. But when free radicals, unstable molecules from pollution-processed oils, and chronic inflammation start attacking that wall, the coating begins to crack. Once that happens, your cells can't communicate, your energy production falters, and your circulation starts to struggle. That's where vitamin E comes in. It sits inside those fatty layers, like a loyal bodyguard, neutralizing the free radicals before they can do harm. Research from the University of Illinois found that vitamin E, especially in the tocotrienol form, can significantly reduce oxidative damage in arterial walls and improve endothelial function, which means smoother blood flow and better oxygen delivery throughout the body. One of my patients, James, a 70-year-old retired pilot, once told me that after 2 months of adding tocotrienols to his morning routine, he could climb stairs again without feeling winded. It's like someone cleaned out the pipes, he said with a grin, and that's exactly what vitamin E does. It doesn't push harder. It helps everything run smoother. I always remind my patients, you don't win the fight against aging by force, you win it by protection. Vitamin E gives your body the resilience to face the daily storms of oxidation, stress, and time. It doesn't just add years to your life. It adds life to your years. When you combine vitamin C, D, K2, and E, something remarkable happens. It's like aligning the 4 elements of vitality, repair, power, direction, and protection. Together, they rebuild the body from the inside out, restoring flow, balance, and strength. But knowledge only matters when it becomes action. Because what truly changes a man's life isn't what he learns, it's what he practices. And that's why I tell every patient who sits in front of me, don't wait for your body to shout. Listen when it whispers, and start with one simple ritual, a small glass of water each morning that could reignite your entire system. After years of seeing patients chase complicated treatments and expensive supplements, I realized something simple yet profound healing doesn't always come from adding more. Sometimes it comes from doing less, but doing it consistently. That's exactly what this 30-second ritual is about, a small act that silently rewires your body from the inside out. Each morning before coffee or breakfast, I ask my patients to pour a glass of room temperature water. Into that, they add 3 things: a few drops of vitamin C, a few drops of vitamin D3, and a few drops of vitamin K2. That's it. 3 nutrients, 30 seconds, and a habit that can rewrite the way your body ages. Here's why it works so well. Water itself wakes up your kidneys, liver, and brain after hours of rest. Adding these vitamins turns that glass into what I call cellular fuel. Vitamin C begins repairing tissue the moment it hits your bloodstream. Vitamin D starts reactivating hormonal signals that control energy and testosterone. And vitamin K2 immediately goes to work preventing calcium from settling in your arteries. It's not magic. It's maintenance, the kind your body has been begging for.
Thank you.
When practiced daily, men start noticing changes within the first few weeks: clearer mornings, steadier focus, lighter moods, and a return of that quiet internal confidence. I've watched these shifts countless times, men who thought they were past their prime, finding that spark again, not because of medication, but because they gave their bodies what they'd been missing all along. There's something deeply powerful about starting your day with intention. That glass of water becomes more than hydration. It becomes a signal, a contract with yourself that says, I'm taking control. And as I often remind my patients, the body doesn't demand perfection. It rewards consistency. This ritual is proof of that. It's not about chasing youth, it's about restoring function. Because when you rebuild from the inside out, the results don't just show in your blood work, they show in your eyes, your posture, and the way you wake up each morning ready to live again. But don't just take my word for it. The real transformation comes from the men who've lived it, those who started this ritual skeptical and ended up calling it their reset button. Their stories are proof that simplicity, when done with purpose, can be the most powerful form of medicine. And one of those stories changed everything I thought I knew about aging. A few months ago, I met George, 73 years old, widowed, quiet, and clearly tired. And he didn't complain much. Most men of his generation don't. He simply said, "Doctor, I feel empty. I wake up, but I don't feel awake." His voice cracked a little when he added, "I think my best years are behind me." I could see what he meant. His posture was heavy, his skin pale, and that unmistakable spark, the one that tells you a man still feels alive, was gone. Instead of prescribing pills or running endless tests, I asked him to try one thing: the morning ritual. 1 glass of water fortified with vitamin C, vitamin D3, and vitamin K2 every single day. I told him, "George, don't look for miracles. Look for momentum." He came back a month later looking like a different person. His handshake was firm, his face had color again, and his first words were, "Doctor, I didn't think it would work, but it did." He laughed when he told me he'd started waking up before his alarm, sleeping better, and even feeling stronger in ways I can't describe. That's the power of small, consistent restoration, not an overnight fix, but a steady return to balance. I've seen this pattern repeat over and over. When men start giving their bodies the raw materials to heal, the antioxidants, the hormones, the nutrients, the results ripple through like everything: metabolism, focus, energy, mood, even their relationships. Because when a man feels good inside, he reconnects with his purpose outside. That's what I love most about this work. Seeing that shift from defeat to confidence, from fatigue to vitality, reminds me that aging isn't a decline, it's an invitation. The body isn't your enemy, it's your most loyal ally waiting for you to listen. And the truth is, George's story isn't rare anymore. It's becoming the new normal for the men who choose to act early, who decide to rebuild rather than resign. They don't wait for a diagnosis. They start with a glass of water. Because that small ritual isn't just about vitamins, it's about reclaiming the right to feel alive again. And as I tell every man who walks into my office, the difference between slow decline and quiet strength often begins not in a prescription, but in a decision. And that decision, my friend, is made every single morning. Every man eventually reaches a crossroads the moment he realizes his body is no longer running on autopilot. The energy that used to come effortlessly now needs a spark. The strength that once defined him feels distant. But here's the truth. I've witnessed again and again, aging doesn't take that spark away. Neglect does. The body never truly stops fighting for you. It just needs the right tools to keep going. That's why this ritual matters so much more than it seems. It's not only about vitamins or physiology, it's about identity. When a man begins to rebuild from within, something deeper shifts the way he breathes, moves, and sees himself. I've had patients tell me, "Doctor, I feel like I finally woke up after 10 years of sleep." And I always tell them that awakening isn't random. It's chemistry aligning with commitment. Think about it. Your arteries don't harden overnight. Your hormones don't crash in a single day. These changes are slow, silent, and cumulative. But the beauty of biology is that it's never too late to reverse direction. Every cell in your body listens to your choices. Every drop of water, every nutrient, every night of good sleep becomes a signal that says, "I'm still here. I'm rebuilding." And that's what men often forget. The body is not broken. It's responsive. It listens quietly, patiently, waiting for you to feed it what it needs to heal. That's what makes this ritual so powerful. It's not a supplement routine. It's a daily dialogue between you and your own biology. Over the years, I've seen men come back to life, not because they found the fountain of youth, but because they found consistency. 1 glass. Every morning, no excuses. That act of showing up for your health day after day sends a message louder than any diagnosis. I am not giving up on myself. So when men ask me, "Doctor, where do I start?" I always smile and say, start small. Start now. Start with water. Because the greatest transformations don't begin in hospitals or clinics. They begin quietly in the morning light with a simple choice to take back control. And as you'll see, once that choice becomes habit, it doesn't just change your mornings, it changes your future. There's a moment I see in every man's journey when something clicks, when he stops measuring his health by his age and starts measuring it by how he feels. That moment changes everything. Because the truth is, getting older doesn't have to mean getting weaker. I've seen men in their 70s outpace men in their 40s, not because they're lucky, but because they've learned how to partner with their biology instead of fighting it. This is what I call the new standard of aging. It's not about chasing youth, but mastering longevity. It's about giving your body the respect it deserves, understanding that every cell, every artery, every hormone is part of a finely tuned orchestra that can still play in perfect harmony if you nourish it right. Science backs this up. Studies from Harvard and the Mayo Clinic show that men who maintain strong micronutrient balance, particularly vitamin C, D, K2, and E, have better cardiovascular resilience, sharper cognitive function, and significantly lower rates of chronic inflammation. These aren't abstract statistics. They're proof that aging is not decay. It's adaptation. One of my favorite moments in the clinic is when a patient says, "Doctor, I don't feel old anymore." That's not denial, that's renewal. Because what they're really saying is, I've reconnected with my body. And that's the whole point of this ritual, not just to repair, but to reconnect. When you start your day with intention, fueling your body with what it needs, instead of what's convenient, you begin to experience life differently. The fog lifts your energy, steadies, and suddenly you're not dragging yourself through the day, you're leading it. That's why I always tell my patients, you don't grow old because time passes, you grow old because you stop rebuilding. The men who stay vibrant are the ones who treat every morning like a reset button, not a countdown clock. So as you listen, now ask yourself, what if aging wasn't something to fear, but something to master? Because the power to do that doesn't lie in a clinic, a drug, or a miracle supplement. It lies in your hands, or more precisely, in the small glass of water that greets you every morning. And when you understand that, you'll realize something extraordinary. Your best years aren't behind you. They're waiting for you to catch up. After all these years in medicine, after all the chart studies and lab results, I've learned that the most powerful changes don't happen in hospitals. They happen at home in the quiet rituals you repeat every day. This simple morning habit isn't just about vitamins. It's about reclaiming ownership of your health before it's taken from you. I've watched men who once felt broken walk back into my office taller, sharper, and more alive than ever. They didn't find a secret drug or a miracle cure. They found something more sustainable: consistency. One small act done with purpose over time becomes unstoppable. And that's what this morning ritual truly is. A promise to yourself that you're not done growing, not done fighting, not done living fully. So here's what I want you to remember. Your body isn't failing you. It's waiting for you to feed it what it's been missing: vitamin C, to repair vitamin D, to power vitamin K2, to protect, and vitamin E to defend. Together, they don't just extend your life, they elevate its quality. Start tomorrow. Pour that glass of water, add those few drops. Look at it Not as a routine, but as a declaration. I'm choosing vitality over resignation. You don't need to overhaul your diet, join an expensive program, or chase another trend. You just need to begin today with one small, deliberate step. Because the truth is, the difference between aging and thriving isn't in your DNA, it's in your decisions. The men who stay vibrant into their 70s and 80s aren't lucky. They're consistent. They listen when the body whispers instead of waiting until it screams. And if you take nothing else from this message, take this: every morning you open your eyes is a second chance. A chance to nourish your body, to restore your energy, and to remind yourself that it's never too late to feel alive again. That's the real power of this 30-second ritual. It's not a supplement routine. It's a daily commitment to strength, purpose, and hope. And the best part, the next sunrise gives you another chance to start. So if there's one message I want you to take away from this video, it's this: your body isn't failing you. It's waiting for you to listen. Every man, no matter his age, still carries the potential to rebuild strength, focus, and confidence. You've just learned how something as simple as a glass of water, fortified with the right nutrients, can awaken systems that may have been asleep for years. I've seen men come back from exhaustion, from frustration, from that quiet fear that they were losing themselves, and I've watched them return stronger, not because of luck, but because they decided to care again. That's the power of consistency, the power of understanding that health isn't lost overnight, and it can be regained the same way, one morning at a time. So take this as your reminder. Start tomorrow. Pour that glass of water, add those few drops, and take that moment to invest in you. Small actions build powerful futures, and this could be the first one that changes everything. If this message helped you, please give it a like. It really supports this channel and tells me these topics matter to you. Subscribe to Senior Men's Health and tap the notification bell so you don't miss the next episode filled with real science-backed ways to protect your health and vitality. And if you know someone who could use a little hope or clarity, share this video with him tonight. Tell me in the comments, will you start this ritual tomorrow morning? I read every story you share. And your journey might be the one that inspires someone else to start theirs, because aging isn't the end of strength, it's the beginning of wisdom. And when wisdom meets action, that's when real healing begins. I'm Dr. Julia Roberts. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.